A loser discovers a mysterious pill that suddenly unlocks his full mental potential and transforms his life overnight. With his mind working at an impossible level, he begins to outsmart everyone around him and climbs faster than anyone ever has. The story begins with a man named Eddie Morra, who stands on his apartment balcony thinking about ending his life. Behind him, a group of dangerous men approaches with the intention of killing him. Eddie does not want to die at their hands, so he considers jumping instead. At this moment, he begins reflecting on how his life reached this point, and the narration shifts into a flashback. In the past, we see Eddie works as a writer, but his life is falling apart. He looks careless and unmotivated, with messy hair, untidy clothes, and no sense of direction. He spends his days lying around, doing nothing productive. Writing feels impossible for him, and his time passes in laziness, substance use, and mindless habits like watching action movies. One day, his girlfriend Lindy meets him and decides to end their relationship. She has a successful career and recently gets a promotion, while Eddie continues wasting his potential. He tries hard to convince her to stay and even considers proposing marriage, hoping to change her mind.
Don't propose. I gotta get back to work.
Eventually, she walks away, leaving Eddie alone. On his way home, Eddie unexpectedly encounters a man named Vernon, the brother of his ex-wife. They have not seen each other in years, yet Vernon recognizes him instantly. They sit together in a nearby bar, and Eddie learns that Vernon's life has completely transformed. Years ago, Vernon dealt in illegal substances, but now he claims to work for a pharmaceutical company and appears successful and confident. During their meeting, Vernon introduces Eddie to a mysterious pill called NZT-48. He explains that the drug is not ordinary and has the power to unlock the full potential of the human brain.
That we can only access 20% of our brain?
What's in it?
It lets you access all of it.
Eddie feels hesitant and avoids taking it, as he already struggles with addiction and does not want to make things worse. However, Vernon leaves the pill and his contact card before departing. As Eddie walks back home, curiosity slowly takes over. He stares at the pill, thinks deeply about his situation, and eventually decides to take it. As soon as he consumes it, everything begins to change. Eddie reaches his apartment and notices his landlady confronting him angrily. She complains about his unpaid rent for several months. While this encounter continues, the effect of NZT-48 suddenly begins to activate, and everything around Eddie starts to feel different. His mind becomes incredibly sharp, almost as if it is fully opened. He begins to observe every small detail with extreme clarity. His senses heighten, and he notices things he would normally ignore. He quickly analyzes the items inside the landlady's bag and accurately identifies a law book she carries. From this, he concludes details about her personal life and academic background. The landlady feels shocked and confused by how accurately he understands her situation. Eddie then demonstrates his ability further by remembering detailed information from the book, even though he had only glanced at it years ago. His memory now works perfectly, allowing him to remember every page and detail with accuracy.
Sparkling cocktail of useful information. Interesting point. Grammatically, this guy was an idiot.
This completely amazes the landlady. After this encounter, Eddie goes inside and briefly connects with her on a personal level. Soon after, he walks into his room and suddenly realizes how messy and neglected his apartment is. The drug completely changes his mindset. His previous habits, including substance use and laziness, no longer attract him. Instead, he feels focused, motivated, and highly driven. He immediately sits down to work on his long-pending book. With his enhanced mental abilities, he writes the entire manuscript in a very short time. Once finished, he takes it to his publisher. The publisher feels stunned by how quickly the work is completed and struggles to believe it. Eddie confidently encourages her to review a few pages and evaluate the quality themselves. The next morning, Eddie wakes up and realizes that the drug's effect has worn off. He understands that its impact lasts only for a limited time, roughly a day. Shortly after, he receives a message from the publisher, who feels extremely impressed after reading his work and expresses strong interest in continuing their collaboration.
How did you do this?
Filled with excitement, Eddie becomes eager to take the drug again to maintain his productivity. He heads straight to Vernon's apartment to get more pills. When Vernon reaches there, Eddie notices visible injuries on his face, indicating that something is wrong. However, Vernon avoids explaining the situation and instead focuses on the drug. He explains that NZT-48 is rare and connected to dangerous people. Eddie requests more of it, clearly determined to continue using it. Since Vernon is unable to go outside due to his condition, he sends Eddie out to pick up food and clothes from the laundry. After a few hours, Eddie returns to the apartment, only to discover a horrifying scene. Vernon lies dead, and the entire place is completely destroyed, suggesting a violent attack. Eddie becomes terrified and immediately contacts the police. However, as he waits, he begins to think deeply about what might have happened. He realizes that whoever attacked Vernon was most likely searching for NZT-48. When they failed to find it, they brutally killed him. Eddie realizes that the pills must still be somewhere inside the apartment. He quickly puts on gloves and begins searching carefully, trying not to leave any evidence behind. After a long search, he fails to find anything and starts thinking more logically. His attention shifts toward the kitchen, and he questions why Vernon Gant asked him to bring food from outside despite having a kitchen. This detail leads him to the oven. He immediately checks inside and discovers a hidden package. When he opens it, he finds a diary, some cash, and a large supply of NZT-48 substance. Just as he collects them, the police arrive at the door. He quickly hides the pills and calmly opens the door, explaining that he found the body as soon as he entered the apartment. The police take him to the station for questioning. They investigate his connection with Vernon, and Eddie clarifies that Vernon is related to his ex-wife. The officers contact his ex-wife Melissa, who confirms his story. After verification, the police release him. From this point, Eddie's life begins to transform completely. He starts taking the pills regularly, and his mental abilities improve dramatically. His thinking becomes faster, sharper, and more efficient. He becomes more confident and completes another book in just a few days. He also gains the ability to learn languages almost instantly just by hearing them. Eddie begins using his intelligence in practical ways. He visits casinos and applies advanced mathematical thinking to predict outcomes, allowing him to win money consistently. His skills grow rapidly, and he expands his knowledge across multiple areas. As his confidence increases, he starts living a more luxurious lifestyle and builds connections with wealthy and influential people. Soon, he gets invited on high-end trips with rich individuals and travels to another country. While enjoying this new lifestyle, he understands that his earlier goal of becoming a writer no longer matters to him. Instead, he now wants to fully enjoy life, and for that, he needs immense wealth. After returning, Eddie enters the stock market and begins making significant profits. Although he earns well, he understands that greater capital will allow him to multiply his earnings faster. To achieve this, he approaches a dangerous figure named Gennady, a loan shark, and requests a large sum of loan.
I quintupled my money 4 days in a row.
Why do I give you $100,000?
I was able to calculate certain patterns using algorithms.
Initially, Gennady, but later agrees under strict conditions. He warns Eddie that failure to repay the money with interest will lead to severe consequences. Despite the threat, Eddie feels confident in his abilities. He begins trading immediately, and within a week, he turns the investment into millions. His rapid growth shocks everyone, and his name starts gaining attention everywhere. As his fame grows, Eddie receives a call informing him that one of the richest men, Carl Van Loon, wants to meet him. Eddie feels excited, knowing this could elevate his life even further. Around the same time, he meets Lindy again. They sit together in a restaurant, where Eddie effortlessly speaks in Italian with the staff, impressing Lindy.
Since when do you speak Italian?
She already knows about his sudden growth and the wealth he has built. Eddie is now widely recognized, and his transformation leaves a strong impact on her. As they reconnect, it becomes clear that his life has taken a dramatic turn, and everything around him is changing at an incredible pace. Eddie and Lindy reconnect and spend a long time together, enjoying each other's company throughout the day and night. However, during this time, Eddie begins to notice something strange. He feels that a mysterious man is following him wherever he goes. He returns to his hotel and keeps watching from the window, trying to confirm if the man is still there. That is when he experiences the side effects of NZT-48 for the first time. His mind suddenly blanks out, and he loses awareness of time. Moments later, he finds himself standing in the lobby with no memory of how he got there. The next day, he meets Carl Van Loon. Using his enhanced intelligence, Eddie impresses him deeply. Carl becomes interested in working with him and even shares confidential information about a company he plans to acquire.
Take a look at these companies. Tell me what you think. Con artist, so you're a very smart young man.
Eddie quickly analyzes the entire file with ease, proving his extraordinary mental abilities once again. After Carl drops him off, the side effects begin to intensify. Eddie starts losing control over his actions. One moment he is in one place, and the next moment he finds himself somewhere completely different, with no memory of how he got there. This pattern continues repeatedly, creating confusion and fear. Eventually, he regains partial awareness in a hotel room with a woman. His memory feels feels fragmented, and he vaguely remembers seeing the same mysterious man there as well. At the same time, he feels pain in his legs and remembers being attacked. During that incident, he instinctively fights back using moves he had only seen before, successfully defending himself. The next morning, Eddie wakes up far away from where he remembers being. He has no clear memory of what happened over the past day. Disturbed and confused, he returns home and starts analyzing Carl's file again. However, he soon realizes that he has run out of NZT-48 pills. At that moment, his colleague Kevin calls and reminds him about an important meeting with Carl. Eddie understands that without the drug, he cannot perform at the same level. He tries to avoid going, but eventually forces himself to attend. During the meeting, Eddie struggles badly. His mind feels slow and unfocused, and he cannot keep up with the discussion. Suddenly, his attention shifts to a television screen nearby. He sees news about the same woman he was with the previous night. The report reveals that she has been murdered. This shocks Eddie completely. He rushes outside, overwhelmed and physically sick. He cannot remember what happened, and a terrifying thought crosses his mind. He might have been involved in her death without even knowing it. Now desperate, Eddie knows he needs more NZT-48 to regain control and understand the truth. He still has Vernon's diary, so he starts contacting the people listed in it. One by one, he learns that almost everyone connected to the drug is already dead. When he calls the last number, something even more alarming happens. The phone rings nearby, revealing it is the same mysterious man who has been following him lately. Terrified, Eddie runs away and goes to meet his ex-wife Melissa. When he meets her, she reveals that she already knows about NZT-48 and admits that she has used it before. She explains that in the beginning, the drug feels powerful and exciting, but over time, it starts destroying her health and stability.
When you told me about this amazing new drug,
Why?
I stopped taking it when I got sick.
This revelation makes Eddie realize that the drug is far more dangerous than he ever imagined, and now he is deeply trapped in its consequences. Melissa reveals that she has already stopped taking the drug, but the consequences are extremely dangerous. She explains that once a person quits NZT-48, the body slowly begins to fail, especially the brain. Every organ starts shutting down, and the condition quickly becomes critical. When she learns that Eddie has been using it for a long time, she becomes deeply concerned. She strongly warns him that if he still has pills left, he must continue taking them because stopping suddenly will make things much worse. After revealing this, she leaves from there. Eddie's condition begins to collapse rapidly. He has only one pill left and struggles to even reach home. On the way, Gennady attacks him, demanding his money. In desperation, Eddie tries to take the last pill to stabilize himself, but Gennady grabs it first. Despite Eddie's attempt to stop him, Gennady consumes the pill and forces Eddie to return the loan. Soon, the drug begins affecting Gennady as well, sharpening his senses and awareness. Meanwhile, Eddie's health continues to deteriorate without the drug. Eventually, he reaches Lindy and reveals the entire truth to her. His condition worsens in front of her, and he realizes he cannot survive without more pills. He remembers that he had hidden some at her apartment and asks her to retrieve them.
I told Lindy everything.
You want me to go get it?
No,
I'll go to your apartment.
it's not.
Although she feels angry and frustrated, she agrees in order to save his life. As Lindy leaves the apartment with the pills, the mysterious man begins following her. She informs Eddie, and he urges her to escape immediately. The man attacks her, and she runs desperately, even seeking help from others, but the attacker overpowers them. She manages to hide and contacts Eddie again. This time, Eddie encourages her to rely on herself and take one of the pills. With no other option, Lindy consumes NZT-48. Instantly, her perception sharpens, and everything becomes clear to her. She quickly analyzes her surroundings and notices an opportunity. As the attacker chases her, she grabs a girl wearing skates and uses her intelligence to successfully injure the attacker and defend herself. After that, Lindy escapes from there. She returns to safety and gives Eddie one of the pills. She then takes him to a hotel. The next morning, Eddie wakes up fully recovered, but Lindy feels disturbed by everything she has experienced. She realizes how powerful and dangerous the drug is. She makes it clear that the drug changes people completely, and she cannot stay with him as long as he continues using it. Eddie understands her concern, but remains determined. He believes he still has many things to fix, and cannot stop taking the drug yet. Lindy decides to leave, telling him that she will return only after he completely gives up NZT-48.
Look, I have a plan, I swear.
I hope you do.
After she leaves, Eddie finds out Gennady is waiting for him outside, so he gives Gennady some pills. After taking the pill, he leaves from there. After that, Eddie hires 2 personal bodyguards to protect him from any threat. He also meets Carl Van Loon and begins working closely with him. Meanwhile, he develops a strategy to control the side effects of NZT-48. He learns to control his dosage, sleep schedule, and food intake to prevent side effects, hoping to reduce the damage caused by the drug. To further manage the situation, Eddie visits a lab and offers a scientist a deal. He provides the sample of NZT-48 and asks him to recreate the drug, but this time without its dangerous side effects. In return, he promises to pay any sum of the amount the scientist demands from him. After arranging this, Eddie is having a business dinner at a luxury restaurant. He notices an officer who informs him that a witness has seen Eddie with the murdered woman shortly before her death. However, Eddie arrives fully prepared. He brings along one of the best lawyers with him, who quickly handles the situation and gets him released without trouble. The next day, Eddie attends an important meeting with Carl Van Loon. There, they meet Hank Atwood, and Carl is planning to acquire his company. The deal is almost finalized, but Hank appears to be in poor health. Despite this, Carl feels extremely satisfied with the progress and offers Eddie a massive reward along with a partnership, as he does not want Eddie to become his competitor in the future. Eddie feels that his life has finally reached a turning point.
In mind that you're not going to continue to work for me anymore.
Evolve. I'm going to have to move on.
A gift, not earned. You do not know what I know.
However, as he steps outside, Gennady confronts him again. He demands more NZT-48 pills and threatens to expose Eddie's being a drug addict to Carl if he refuses. Eddie remains composed because he believes that once the deal is completed, nothing will be able to harm his position. The next day, things take an unexpected turn. Hank does not show up for the meeting. Instead, his wife arrives and informs them that he is in critical condition at the hospital. She explains that if he recovers, he will sign the deal himself, but if not, she will take control through power of attorney and complete the transaction. As they escort her out, Eddie notices something shocking. The mysterious man who has been following him all this time turns out to be Hank's bodyguard. At that moment, everything becomes clear to him. Hank had also been using NZT-48, and due to the lack of supply, his health started failing. The bodyguard has been chasing Eddie to obtain more of the drug. Soon after, Eddie is called back to the police station for identification. This time, he arrives again with his lawyer. Before stepping forward, he cleverly hands over his coat to his lawyer. During the identification parade, everyone appears similar, making it difficult for the witness to identify Eddie, which allows him to walk free once again. After leaving, Eddie takes back his coat from his lawyer and heads straight to Carl. Carl appears stressed because Hank's condition has now become public news, and the deal is under pressure. At the same time, Eddie begins experiencing severe withdrawal symptoms. He realizes that it is time for another dose, but when he checks his coat, all the pills are missing. Panic starts to build as he rushes outside. There, he receives a courier package addressed to him. When he opens it, he is horrified to discover severed hands inside. These belong to the 2 men he had hired as bodyguards. This makes it clear that Gennady is behind the attack and is now targeting him directly. Shaken and desperate, Eddie returns home and turns on the television, trying to understand what is happening next. He knows that the situation is quickly spiraling out of control. Soon, Eddie realizes that the same lawyer who helped him earlier also works for Hank Atwood. At that moment, everything becomes clear. Eddie had handed over his coat to that lawyer at the police station, which means the lawyer secretly stole all the NZT-48 pills and sent them to Hank. Eddie quickly connects the situation. If Hank receives the pills, his mind will recover, and he will cancel the deal with Carl Van Loon. That would cost Eddie everything, and now he finds himself completely ruined, with no money and no pills left. Suddenly, the doorbell rings and Eddie checks the camera and sees Gennady outside, demanding more pills. Eddie remembers that he had already given him some earlier just to survive, but now Gennady wants more. At the same time, Eddie notices that his phone has no signal, which means he is completely trapped. Realizing that death is near, Eddie decides he would rather end his life than be killed by them. He walks toward the balcony, preparing to jump. However, at the last moment, he remembers that he had left one pill hidden in a box. He rushes back inside and quickly searches for it. Just as he finds the pill, Gennady breaks in. In the chaos, the pill slips from Eddie's hand and falls away. Gennady then reveals that he has modified the drug into a liquid form, allowing it to last longer when injected. He becomes more dangerous and ambitious, now believing he can become one of the richest men in the world.
You don't even know how to use it. It goes straight into the blood and brain. Lasts much longer.
While Gennady's men search the house, he moves forward to torture Eddie. In that critical moment, Eddie notices a knife nearby. As Gennady gets close, Eddie suddenly attacks and repeatedly stabs him until he dies. The situation becomes even more desperate. Eddie lies weak on the floor, knowing that Gennadi's comrades will return any second and kill him. Then he realizes that the drug is still present in Gennadi's blood. In a final act of survival, Eddie uses this to his advantage and absorbs the drug through his blood. Almost instantly, his mind becomes sharp again. Using his intelligence, he outsmarts and eliminates Gennadi's comrades. Eddie then heads straight to the hospital, only to discover that Hank has already died. This means the pills never reached him. He tracks down Hank's bodyguard and explains that the lawyer had stolen the pills but never delivered them. The bodyguard becomes furious. Together, they confront the lawyer at his home. The bodyguard captures him, and Eddie finally recovers the stolen NZT-48 pills. With this, the immediate threat is gone, and the bodyguard disappears from his life. Time passes, and a year goes by. Eddie's life has completely transformed. His book is now published and becomes a major success, turning him into a well-known and powerful figure. Now Eddie is extremely powerful and intelligent and steps into the world of politics. Soon, Carl visits him, revealing that he has uncovered the truth behind Eddie's extraordinary intelligence. He exposes that he knows about the NZT-48 drug and even tracks down the company related to its production. Carl takes control of the entire operation by buying the company, even though the drug's existence remains hidden from the public. He also discovers Eddie's private lab and ensures it is shut down. Using all this information, Carl attempts to pressure Eddie into working for him, threatening to expose his secrets and ruin his political career if he refuses. However, Eddie remains composed, and instead of giving in, he confidently dismisses Carl's threats. He explains that enhanced intelligence allows him to stay ahead of everyone and solve problems before they become dangerous. Over time, he has already eliminated NZT-48 side effects through years of research. Now, he no longer depends on daily usage of pills. He has developed a permanent solution that keeps his mind operating at an extraordinary level, and that formula exists only in his memory. The drug itself is no longer needed, nor can anyone else access or use it. To demonstrate his abilities, Eddie accurately predicts an incoming car accident moments before it happens. He then reveals Carl's hidden heart condition, something no one else knows. This completely unsettles Carl, making it clear that Eddie's intelligence goes far beyond normal limits. Eddie subtly warns him that any move against him will be countered many times over, leaving Carl powerless and shaken. Realizing he cannot win, Carl leaves in defeat. After that, Eddie visits a restaurant where Lindy is waiting for him. Their relationship appears stable, showing that despite everything, they are still together. Eddie speaks in Chinese while ordering the food, reflecting how far he has evolved. Lindy smiles, and Eddie responds with quiet confidence.